I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments, and we begin this Friday night with breaking news. And yes, word in, a verdict has been reached in Tennessee in the case of the pastor who was shot and killed by his girlfriend, Latoshia Daniels. His wife, Tabitha, also shot. She survived. The pastor did not. Latoshia Daniels charged with first-degree murder, facing the rest of her life in prison.
A jury of your peers has found you guilty of second-degree murder in count 1. The jury has found you guilty in count 2 of reckless endangerment, and the jury has found you not guilty in count 3. As a 13th juror, I approve that verdict. We'll show your bond revoked, and we'll show this matter set for sentencing.
In 2016, Latasha Daniels went to her pastor for help. Pastor Brodus Perry led the couples ministry at St. Mark Baptist Church in Little Rock, and Latasha needed counseling. Her marriage was ending. Her husband had cheated. She later testified that during that first session, Pastor Perry kissed her. The counseling session turned into something physical. What happened next lasted 3 years.
As I was talking and sharing, Brodus reached over and grabbed, I had a 2-arm chair, and he pulled me toward him and began to passionately kiss me. And from there, in that session, we did have sex for the first time.
Latasha made him lunch almost every single day. Sometimes she'd drop it off at his church office. Sometimes he'd come to her workplace to eat with her. He knew her office code, so he could walk in whenever he wanted.
I would cook for him, and so he would come to my office to eat lunch. If he didn't come to the office, I would drop it off for him. But it got to the point to where he knew my code to my office, so he would just come in. He knew where to get his lunch, warm it up, and if I had a session, of course, he would wait out in his vehicle, but other than that, he would come in and we would sit there and have lunch every day.
She paid $2,300 to cover a debt he owed the church. When he didn't pay the full amount, he got upset with her about it.
The debt was $2,500, but I ended up getting him $2,300, and he got very upset with me about it.
Why did he get upset with you about it?
Because he wanted me to do the full price.
When Pastor Perry got offered a bigger position at Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church in Memphis, Latasha planned both of his going-away parties, one at a cigar lounge, one at the church. She paid for most of the gifts, and during all of this, she played tennis with Tabitha, his wife, multiple times.
I planned a going-away party. Actually, he had 2. He had one at the cigar lounge and then one for the church.
Who planned the party at the cigar lounge?
I did.
Who planned the party at the church?
I did.
Who paid for the majority of the gifts?
I did.
In February 2019, Pastor Perry posted this on Facebook for Valentine's Day. "Thank you for navigating this thing called life with me. Happy 5th anniversary." April 4th, he sent Latasha a text message. "I think our time is up." April 4th, 2019. Latasha got in her car in Little Rock, Arkansas. She had a loaded firearm. She drove 2.5 hours to Memphis, Tennessee. She went to the apartment where Pastor Perry and his wife lived. She knocked on the door. Tabitha answered. She let her inside. When police arrived that night, Pastor Brodus Perry was on the living room floor with multiple gunshot wounds. He didn't survive. Tabitha had been shot in the shoulder but managed to escape and get help. Latasha was still inside the apartment when officers got there. So was this a woman who'd been manipulated by someone she trusted? Or was this a woman who couldn't handle rejection? Latasha Daniels was 39 years old, living in Little Rock, Arkansas. She had a doctorate in social work with a criminal justice concentration, licensed clinical social worker at a company called The Root Behavioral Health. She'd been married twice. Both marriages ended, partly because of infidelity.
Did you eventually get divorced?
We did.
Okay. Now, after that divorce, did you attempt suicide?
I actually did it right before we actually finalized the divorce.
Did you commit suicide because of the divorce? I'm sorry, attempt to commit suicide because of the divorce.
Yes, I just didn't feel like I felt like a failure. That was the one thing I felt like a failure. I didn't think that I was enough. And so I didn't feel I had anything to offer.
But you did go on to get an education, right?
I did.
And you didn't let your divorce or your teen pregnancy, you didn't let those things stop you from trying to get better in your life, right?
Right. I wanted to push forward. I wanted to be successful. And I mean, I had to be. So I kept going.
And you eventually became a licensed clinical social worker.
I did.
Now, I want to talk to you about your second marriage, okay? That was to Brian.
Yes.
Now, how long were you married to Brian?
I was married to Brian for 8 years.
When her second marriage started falling apart for the same reason, she went looking for help.
Positive?
No.
Did you feel loved in that relationship?
No.
Did you feel wanted in that relationship?
Not at all.
Would you describe Brian as being emotionally distant,
He very much was so.
emotionally neglectful?
Yes.
She made an appointment with Pastor Brodus Perry at St. Mark Baptist Church for counseling. Brodus Perry was 36 years old, third-generation pastor. His grandfather preached, his father preached, now Brodus was doing the same. He worked at St. Mark Baptist Church in Little Rock, running the couples ministry, helping married people navigate faithfulness issues, communication breakdowns, how to keep their commitments. He'd been married to Tabitha Perry for 5 years. She was a hospital administrator. They were involved in church leadership, visible in their community. Before we get too deep, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you find value in these discussions. Back to 2016. Latasha went to Pastor Perry for marriage counseling. Her husband had been unfaithful. She needed guidance. According to her testimony in court years later, during that first session, Pastor Perry kissed her. The relationship became physical.
As I was talking and sharing, Brodus reached over and grabbed, I had a 2-arm chair, and he pulled me toward him and began to passionately kiss me. And from there, in that session, we did have sex for the first time.
Were you proud of that encounter?
In hindsight, no, but at that time, he was giving me everything that I had been missing for a long time.
Latasha knew he was married. She'd met Tabitha, but he was also her pastor, the person she'd gone to for help during one of the hardest moments of her life. The relationship lasted 3 years.
Did you know that he was married?
I did.
Did you know his wife?
At that time, I had seen her at church, but didn't know of her.
You got to know her better later?
Yes.
How did you feel about the fact that Brodus was married?
At that time, honestly, I did not think about it. I knew that we both were married, and I was engaged in what he was giving me.
Latasha didn't just know Tabitha existed. She met her, spent time with her. During this time, Brodus was involved in what he called ethical non-monogamy. He joined a Marco Polo group where members discussed open relationships and multiple partners. He had rules for the women he dated. They had to be out of town, not in Jacksonville, where he was from, not in Little Rock, where he lived. Latasha wasn't part of that group. She said Brodus pressured her to accept him seeing other women. She didn't want that. According to her testimony, when she refused, he'd withdraw, stop being affectionate, pull away emotionally. When she went along with what he wanted, he'd come back.
So now I want to talk to you about Brodus wanting to expand the ethical non-monogamy. Well, I guess first, was he actually engaging in ethical non-monogamy?
No.
Tabitha had no idea any of this was going on, right?
No.
As far as you knew, she knew that that's what he wanted, but he hadn't told her.
As far as I knew, correct.
And you've heard differently from even that here.
Yes.
Did Brodus ask you about expanding the relationship beyond you?
He did.
When he asked you about that, how did you respond?
I told him I didn't want to.
Did he tell you, well, my wife's on board with it, so why isn't my girlfriend?
That's exactly what he said.
Did that cause problems between you and Brodus?
At first, no, but as it continued to go on, it did. Especially after he joined like this, he called it a book club, but they met on Marco Polo talking about the book, The Ethical Slut, and so the more that he engaged in that, it became to where it was, because he was more like, why are you not on board with this? And I'm like, why would I be? Like, it doesn't make sense, because we already have limited time together, so why would I say, yes, you can be able to be with multiple women? And so it was that part, it was hard.
In March 2019, about a month before the incident, Latasha testified about an encounter at a hotel that she said left her feeling disrespected and used. She described a situation where Brodus treated her in ways that made her uncomfortable. Afterward, he turned away and went to sleep. The next morning, he left without speaking to her. A few weeks later, according to her testimony, Latasha was in crisis. She showed up at a hotel where Brodus was staying. She had a firearm with her. She testified that Brodus convinced her to give him the weapon, and he stored it at a cigar lounge. After that, Latasha went to stay with a friend in Pine Bluff, Arkansas for several days. The relationship continued.
What I thought was going to be lovemaking was not that night.
Can you tell me what happened?
As I was performing oral sex on him, he began to thrust himself inside my mouth really hard. And I told him that was hurting. Then he grabbed my hair. I had long hair, and he wrapped my hair around his hand and he started yanking it. And when he wasn't thrusting himself in my mouth, he was pulling my hair really hard. And with his other hand, he would just hit me and hit me and hit me. And I was like, it's hurting. And he was like, you better not bite me. You better not bite me. And then after that, we had sex, and it was just rough, and it was hard, and it was just not what I was used to. And then once we finished, something he never ever does was he rolled over and just gave me the cold shoulder, and I was like, you're not gonna hold me? And he was like, no, and just went to sleep.
How did that make you feel?
I felt so used.
Did that affect you emotionally?
Yes. I was just like, what has always happened to me?
According to her testimony, Brodus told her how to solicit monetary gifts from other church members so he'd have extra money when he left.
Then he gave me a backstory on how to be able to elicit money from the other members of the church so that he could have a certain amount of money for when he left.
What do you mean?
Like it was, hey, reach out to the life groups and tell them, I'm going away and we're going to do monetary gifts. So that's what I did.
Did he get monetary gifts from that?
He did.
Brodus and Tabitha moved to Memphis. Latasha stayed in Little Rock. The relationship didn't end. According to her testimony, Brodus would return to Little Rock for orthodontist appointments and to meet with a consulting client. When he came back, he'd contact Latasha. They'd meet at hotels.
Now, I want to talk to you about after they moved, okay?
Okay.
Did your relationship with Brodus Perry continue after he moved to Memphis?
Yes,
Would Brodus come back to Little Rock?
he would.
Do you know why he would come? Why he would come back?
Yes, the main reason why he would come back is because of his orthodontics appointments. And then also he was building up a business and a consulting business, and he was beginning to he had one client that he was coming back to begin to do some consulting with.
What would happen when he came in town between the two of y'all?
We would meet up at the hotel and hang out.
I want to, and was that he would come in town and he would contact you?
Yes.
And y'all would get together?
Yes.
April 4th, 2019. Latasha was at home in Little Rock when she got a text from Brodus. According to her testimony, it was a disappearing message. I think our time is up. 3 years. All the lunches she cooked, the $2,300 she paid toward his debt, the 2 going away parties she organized, the tennis games with his wife, and he ended it with a disappearing text message. Latasha testified that after reading that text, she felt destroyed, used, worthless.
I had sent out regular good morning texts. I didn't hear anything from him that morning. And then later in the afternoon, I seen where he had responded. And so I opened it up. And it said, I think our time is up. So he had broke up with me via this disappearing text.
How did that make you feel?
I felt so used and worthless, and I just felt like trash. Like, who does that to somebody who they say that they love?
That afternoon, she wrote a letter to her family about the emotional struggles she'd been dealing with. Dated April 4th, 2019, 3:14 p.m.
I wrote a letter. I wrote a suicide note to my family because I was just like, I'm tired. I'm tired of the pain. I'm tired of it all. And I just wanted I wanted the pain to end. So I wrote a note and made a plan to take my life.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Latasha, do you recognize that?
Yes.
What is that?
This is the note that I wrote to my family.
Latasha, can you tell me the date and time of that letter?
April 4th, 2019 at 3:14 p.m.
Can you read that letter to the jury?
To my family, I'm sorry that I have let you down. I tried my best to be the person you all thought I was. I tried to be the person you could count on and be proud of. However, I have been depressed for a long time. I did well with coping until the past 2 years. My world changed February 24th, 2017. And the shit just keeps getting worse. I know what I have been through may be nothing to some. And you don't understand why I couldn't bounce back. I have fought hard for so long to keep things together. I didn't trust anyone to know deep down how bad I was struggling. Only a few people knew, but they couldn't help me. To my fellas, I'm so sorry that I have let you down. I have fought hard to be the best mother I could be to each of you. I pray that what I have taught you will stick with you forever. Please don't be ashamed of me. Mother, thank you for being my mother. please know that although you didn't think I loved you, I really did. I wanted so badly for us to be close. There was many times I just wanted to crawl into your arms and have you hold me. I'm sorry for being a failure. I tried to make you proud of me. Words can't explain or express the pain I feel at this moment. I have pretended for so long to be happy. I have tried to work through the pain and begin to heal, but just as my life would have it, yet another loss appears to remind me just how much of a failure I am. I don't have any insurance and I don't have any money, so please just have me cremated and don't worry about a service. I don't want to be a burden. I'm sorry for letting all you down. I love you all so much, and I wish I could live myself as much as I wish I could love myself as much as I love you all. Please take care of my fellas and always remind them of my love for them. I'm not being selfish. I just don't know how. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. This got out of hand, but it says, "I'm sorry for letting all of you down, and I love you all so much. I wish I could love myself as much as I love you all. Please take care of my fellas and always remind them of my love for them. I'm not being selfish. I just don't know how to continue bearing the pain I have felt for over 25 years of my life. With each loss, hurt, disappointment, etc. I've experienced through the years, it only added to my current state of mind. I thought I could continue to push through and be strong, the strong Tasha everyone know, but I can't. I'm weak, and I have been for over the past year and a half. I thought I would bounce back. I prayed consistently, but I guess God no longer hears my prayers since I wasn't doing His will. I'm not perfect. I've messed up so many times in my life. The thing I wanted to be the most successful in, I messed up not once but twice. Well, really 3 times. I will leave that for you all to find in my journal.
She left home and went to a gun store in Sherwood, Arkansas. Security footage shows her at the firearms display, choosing one of the cheaper models. The clerk offered ammunition. She took it. She testified she was in crisis.
I drove to Sherwood to go purchase a gun.
Why did you go purchase a gun?
Because I didn't have my other one.
What was the purpose of the gun?
I wanted to end my life, and I felt like that was going to be the best way to do it.
When you went to that store, were you buying a gun to kill yourself, or were you buying a gun to kill someone else?
I was buying a gun to kill myself. I had a whole plan.
What was your plan?
I didn't want to do it at my house because my son lived with me. So I decided, as I was just thinking about all the pain, to go to this park in Jacksonville, Arkansas.
How far away from Little Rock was that park?
Jacksonville might be about a 20-minute drive from my home. And the reason why I chose that was because that's where Brodus was. He wasn't from Jacksonville, Arkansas, but the Jacksonville part of it was attached to him. And the name of the park was Johnson Park, which was attached to my second ex-husband. And then Ray Road, my daddy's middle name was Ray, so I just associated with all the pain from the men in my life, and so that's where I was gonna go.
She got in her car with the gun and drove. When she saw the Memphis exit, she took it. She said she needed to see Brodus face to face. 2.5 hours. State lines crossed. A loaded firearm in her car.
I was gonna drive in my car. It's from my home. It would have been straight down 440.
Is that an interstate?
Yes.
What happened while you were driving to Johnson Park?
As I was driving, I saw the Memphis exit, and so then I was like, "Go talk to him, Tasha. Just go let him see you. Go see why." And that's what I did. I just drove so I can see him face to face and hope that I can get something from him besides the fact that he broke up with me with a disappearing text. And as I was driving, he did text me, and as he was telling me that he still loved me. So I was trying to just figure out what was going on.
According to her testimony, when Latasha got to Memphis, she contacted Brodus. He told her to meet him at a lounge downtown called The Pocket. She went. They talked for a while. Latasha testified that she brought up what they'd been avoiding for 3 years, telling Tabitha about the affair. She said Brodus had always promised they'd tell his wife eventually, when the timing was better, but it never was. This time, she said, Brodus agreed. He told her to drive to his apartment in Collierville. He'd meet her there. They'd tell Tabitha together.
I was not to approach him, but if he acknowledged me, then I could have, talk to him.
Did you come within his sight?
Yes.
Did he acknowledge you?
Yes.
You actually walked right.
I walked past him, and so he said, "So you're just gonna walk past me and not say anything?"
At that point in time, did y'all engage in a conversation?
Yes.
After you talked with Brodus, what did y'all figure out?
Well, we decided that because his thing was I still wasn't wanting to be on board with him and this non-monogamy and have been able to see other women. So we came to I told him, well, we still haven't told Tab. You've always said something about telling Tab, so we haven't told Tabitha. And he said, okay, we'll tell Tabitha. He told me to go to the apartment and just talk to her about tenants until he got there, and that once he was there, we would tell her. He had to go to his boss house to drop off something. And so he gave me a backstory as to what to tell her if she asked me while I was in town, and we left. But before leaving, we came to the resolve that once we told Tabitha about the relationship, we had a trip that was planned to go. We was going to Kentucky. If she said yes, then that would be a new start, a fresh start. But if she said no, then that would be the trip that we would end.
Latasha drove to Meridian Park Apartments and knocked on the door. Tabitha answered. According to what Tabitha later told police, Latasha introduced herself. Tabitha recognized the name. She'd met Latasha back in Little Rock. They'd been at the same church. They'd played tennis. She let her inside.
I heard a knock at the door. So me and the dog went to the door. I didn't see anyone. Well, the people was covered. And so I thought it was Brodus just playing around. So I said something like, I'm not going to open the door if I can't see anyone. So I went and sat back down. And I heard a knock again. So I went back to the door. And I peeked out the door. And I saw a lock, swinging. And I was like, Tasha, is that you? And she, nodded, yeah. So I was like, okay, let me put the dog up. I went and put the dog up. And then I came back and opened the door.
Okay.
The two women sat in the living room and talked. Casual conversation. About 30 minutes. Waiting for Brodus to get home. Tabitha didn't know why Latosha was really there.
I invited her in. We just sat on the couch and just kind of caught up. How are you? What's going on? How are the kids? Have you been playing tennis? Stuff like that. Just really small talk.
When Brodus walked through the door, Latosha testified that she expected him to finally tell the truth, to explain to Tabitha that they'd been involved for 3 years, to own what he'd done. He didn't. According to Latosha's testimony, Brodus acted like nothing was wrong. like this was a normal visit from an old church friend. Small talk, surface level. No mention of the affair.
When he came in, he didn't look surprised or anything, which is what I thought he would do since he knew I was going to be there. But he was just like, I think Tab was like, surprise. And he was like, this not a surprise. I thought you had some keto cookies for me. And from there, he was like, what are you doing here? And then I went with the story again that I was in town for a conference. And we just kind of started engaging in small talk. He came and sat beside me. And then after about a minute or so, was like, would you like a pour?
What is a pour?
A pour is some bourbon.
Did you accept the pour of bourbon?
I did.
Where was Brodus seated?
He was approximately a foot or two from me.
I'm putting back up from the cumulative exhibit.
That blue chair?
This blue chair right
Yes.
here? And you were seated here?
Yes.
And Tabitha was still seated here?
Yes.
After you accepted the pour of bourbon from him, did he make any comments about you drinking?
Latosha said she waited for him to say something. She kept looking at him, trying to get him to follow through on what he'd promised at the lounge. He wouldn't.
He came back and sat down, and as we were talking, he would make references to me drinking and would say, well, I think you're going to have to stay the night. So I'm thinking, okay, well, this is about to get into this conversation. But he never would give me eye contact. But he would continue to make, it's like, we have to clean out the bed in there because it has a lot of clothes on it. And, but I'm still looking at him to get, like, to see where you going with this. But he never did lead into the conversation. He actually started asking me questions like, so where are you staying in Memphis? And I'm like, that wasn't part of what you told me you was going to say. So I don't know Memphis. He knows I didn't know Memphis. And so I didn't know what to say. I finally said an Airbnb. And then Tabitha was like, where? And I was like, downtown. And then that conversation ended. And he continued to say something about me staying the night, but never going into the conversation of what we were supposed to be talking about.
After about 10 minutes, Latosha stood up. She told them she was leaving and started walking toward the door. Brodus and Tabitha walked with her. At the door, Latosha reached into her pocket. She testified she was reaching for her keys. The next thing she remembers, she said, is standing in the kitchen. In between those two moments, Latosha pulled out a gun and fired. Witnesses in nearby apartments heard gunshots. A woman's voice shouting.
I saw that it wasn't going anywhere. Like I said, he was not giving me eye contact. So I knew, or I felt like he had changed his mind. And I just didn't want to keep sitting there feeling, at that point, stupid.
What happened after you said you were going to leave?
Tabitha got up, he got up, and so she began to tell me about watching for the police, because I had been drinking.
Had you drank a lot?
No, not at all, but she still was just letting me know. And she began to walk toward the door, and I asked him, would he walk me out? He said no. And I said, why not, sir? That's Southern hospitality for you to walk a woman outside when it's dark. Because I wanted to just get him to see, like, what happened. Why didn't you follow through? But he refused to walk me out. So Tabitha opened the door and was walking out. I was still trying to get him to walk me out. And as I reached into my pockets to get my keys, I remember being outside the door, and then the next thing I was standing in their kitchen.
Do you deny that you shot Brodus Perry?
I do not.
Do you deny that you shot Tabitha?
I don't, but I know it wasn't intentional.
Did you mean to shoot Tabitha?
No, I wasn't trying to hurt anybody.
When you went to that apartment that day, did you intend to use your gun on either Brodus or Tabitha?
No.
According to the affidavit, Tabitha told police that Latosha said, "You broke my heart," while firing. Brodus was hit multiple times. Tabitha was shot in the shoulder. According to testimony, Brodus told Tabitha to run, get help. Tabitha ran. She made it to a neighbor's apartment and pounded on the door. Latosha walked out of the apartment, then came back inside. Tabitha was still trying to leave. According to her statement, Latosha told her to get out of the way, then fired at her again.
She said, well, I'm not going to keep you guys. I'm going to, head out or whatever. So we all got up to walk to the door, and I led, and she was behind me, and he was behind her. And I walked to the door, and I'm just giving this little spiel about not speeding in the area, just making small talk as we go to the door. I open the door, and I go out. We're on the second floor, and I'm like right at the steps when I turn back, and I'm like, okay, no one's behind me. And then I see her pull out her gun and start shooting.
Was she inside of the apartment or outside?
No, she was outside of the apartment, and he was like standing in the doorway, like in the threshold.
Had she ever, since she got there and you let her in, had she left the apartment to go back to her car or anything?
No.
So she had brought the gun in with her when she came into the apartment?
Yes.
So when she pulled the gun out, what happened next?
She started shooting. He hit the ground, and I started running toward him, and she told me, like, basically back off. So I stopped, and I ran to the neighbor's door, and I banged on the door, called 911. She went back into the apartment, so I went back into the apartment because I'm just trying to figure out what is going on. Like, why is this happening? So I'm, screaming naturally, why is this happening? What's happening? Why are you doing this?
So do you think your neighbor called 911 at that point?
One of them did. Somebody called.
When you got back into the apartment, did the defendant still have the gun in her hand?
Yes.
And what was going on then?
I guess at that point, I'm basically pleading, like, what's happening? Why are you doing this? Please leave. And she's, kind of pacing a little bit, with the gun. At some point, the gun was reloaded.
So she fired until she ran out of bullets?
Mm-hmm.
Were you ever shot?
I was shot.
Tell me about that. When did that happen? Where were you?
Well, at some point I got on the ground, and I can't remember if I got on the ground immediately, but I was on the ground and I was kind of hovering over him. Kind of in my mind, I'm like, let me cover his head, so he doesn't get shot anymore. And, she was yelling at me to move, and I wouldn't move. So I got shot.
Police arrived at Meridian Park Apartments around 10:20 p.m. When they got there, Brodus was on the living room floor with gunshot wounds to his head and torso. Tabitha had made it outside. Neighbors were helping her. Latosha was still inside the apartment, holding the weapon. Officers ordered her to drop the gun. She didn't. They used a less lethal round. She dropped it, and officers took her into custody. Brodus was transported to the hospital. He didn't survive. At the hospital, Latosha tried to run. She shoved an officer and took off through the hallways. Officers tackled her, forced her into handcuffs while she fought back. 3 more charges: assault on officers, attempted escape, resisting arrest. She was taken to jail. No bond. By May 2019, Latasha had a preliminary hearing scheduled. Leslie Ballin, a well-known Memphis defense attorney, was representing her. Tabitha was supposed to testify about what happened that night. The defense waived the hearing. The case went straight to a grand jury. Tabitha didn't have to take the stand. Latasha stayed in custody. No bail was set. Her family and friends showed up to court appearances to support her. During the case, Leslie Ballin withdrew. There was a disagreement about legal strategy. Latasha couldn't afford another private attorney, so the court appointed one. The case sat for years. Latasha was incarcerated from April 2019 through the trial. During that time, according to trial reports, she wrote 2 books, one for incarcerated mothers, another for children whose mothers are in jail, trying to help people in similar situations. 6 years passed. The legal reality didn't change. First-degree murder charges. If convicted, life in prison. The trial began in November 2025, 6 years after the shooting. The prosecution argued premeditated murder. Latasha bought a gun the same day she drove to Memphis. She had 2.5 hours to turn around. She didn't. Prosecution presented surveillance footage from the gun store. The timeline, the breakup text, they argued everything Latasha did that day showed intent, planning, a decision to kill because she couldn't handle rejection. The defense argued Latasha had been manipulated by a man in spiritual authority, a pastor who used his counseling role to start a physical relationship with her, a man who knew she had mental health struggles and exploited that vulnerability. The defense pointed to her credentials: doctorate in social work, licensed clinical professional, anger management specialist. Her life's work was helping people heal, not hurting them. The defense argued Pastor Brodus Perry broke her down over 3 years. He told her they'd tell his wife, then never did. He posted loving tributes to Tabitha on social media while texting Latasha privately. He took her money, had her plan his parties, made her play tennis with his wife while carrying on the affair. When Latasha tried to pull away, he'd reel her back in. Intimacy as a weapon. Affection when she complied. Distance when she didn't. The defense showed the jury videos Brodus had posted online. Videos where he talked openly about ethical non-monogamy, having girlfriends in different cities. The rules for those relationships? They had to be out of town, not in Jacksonville where he was from, not in Little Rock where he lived.
I am at a place now where I want to expand this ethical non-monogamy, and your opinion matters to me because we are in this relationship. But at the same time, like I said from the outset, I want to be respectful, but I also want to let you know that your opinion matters. But at the same time, I don't want you to put me in a box, right? Because while we talked about it in theory, this is now the practice part. And with a tab being perfectly fine with, the situation, because how I've handled and been honest and transparent and open with her with regard to this current relationship, me expanding it is not an issue for me. Basically, she told me, we can talk about it when you think it's worth talking about. But the way that you handle this, I'm fine with not trust your judgment because you haven't given me a reason not to.
The defense argued Brodus presented himself as a man in an open marriage. Latasha believed Tabitha knew about the relationship, that they'd all agreed to this arrangement. When she discovered Tabitha had no idea, it shattered her. Then Latasha took the stand. For hours she answered questions. How the relationship started, what Brodus had told her, the emotional manipulation, the financial exploitation, the hot and cold treatment. She described the March 2019 encounter that left her feeling used and disrespected, the crisis point where she felt worthless. She testified about April 4th, the breakup text, writing the letter to her family, going to the gun store, being in crisis. She said when she met Brodus downtown, he told her they'd finally tell Tabitha together. That's why she went to the apartment, not to hurt anyone, to get the truth out. She testified that when Brodus walked into the apartment and acted like nothing was wrong, she felt betrayed again. One more lie. The prosecution asked directly, did she shoot Brodus Perry? I do not deny it. Did she shoot Tabitha? I don't, but I know it wasn't intentional. She testified she doesn't remember pulling the trigger. She remembers reaching for her keys at the door, then standing in the kitchen. Everything between those moments is blank. During cross-examination, the prosecution went after her story. She drove 2.5 hours with a gun. She had time to turn around. She made a choice. They brought up the hospital escape attempt. If she was so remorseful, why run? They questioned the memory gap. Convenient, they suggested, that she remembers everything up to pulling the trigger, but not the shooting itself. The jury heard it all. They had to decide, first-degree murder or something else. The jury deliberated. In November 2025, they reached a verdict.
Good evening, I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments, and we begin this Friday night with breaking news. And yes, word in, a verdict has been reached in Tennessee in the case of the pastor who was shot and killed by his girlfriend, Latoshia Daniels. His wife, Tabitha, also shot. She survived. The pastor did not. Latoshia Daniels charged with first-degree murder, facing the rest of her life in prison. Let's take you inside the courtroom right now as we get ready to hear the jury's verdict. There are some lesser-included possibilities here of second-degree murder, manslaughter, criminal reckless homicide. All of those, something that the defense is looking for, because if it's first degree, it is game over for this defendant. The rest of her life, she'll be locked up. Anything less than first degree, she'll have a chance to get out someday.
Latasha Daniels stood in court as the judge read the counts. Count 1, second-degree murder, guilty. Count 2, reckless endangerment, guilty. Count 3, employment of a firearm during a felony, not guilty. The prosecution had pushed for first-degree murder, premeditation, intent, life in prison. The jury went with second-degree instead. Second-degree murder means the jury believed Latasha killed Brodus Perry, but not that she'd planned it beforehand. The emotional distress, the manipulation, the crisis she was in that day, it was enough to bring the charge down. On Tabitha's shooting, reckless endangerment instead of attempted murder, the jury believed it wasn't intentional. Not everyone agreed with the verdict. A pastor was dead. His wife was shot and traumatized. Latasha had driven across state lines with a loaded gun. That sounds like a plan. But others saw it differently. A pastor who exploited a vulnerable woman he was supposed to help. 3 years of financial and emotional manipulation. A breakup via disappearing text. A woman in crisis who made a devastating choice. Guilty, but not of the highest charge. Her defense attorney spoke to reporters after the verdict. Latasha had been genuinely remorseful from the beginning, he said, not just about Tabitha, but about Brodus too, a weight she carried every day. He pointed out what the jury seemed to recognize. The manipulation and emotional abuse Latasha endured over 3 years had broken her down. Sentencing was scheduled for December 17, 2025. Second-degree murder in Tennessee, 15 to 25 years. Reckless endangerment, 2 to 4 years. The judge would decide where Latasha fell in those ranges and whether she'd serve the sentences back-to-back or at the same time.
To testify, tell me what was the things that you guys thought about when you made that decision.
There was so much of this story that only Latasha could tell. The police only had so much information, and Tabitha Perry did not have a lot of this information. So there was all of these gaps that there was no explanation for, that Latasha had to be the one to fill in for the jury. But also, she wanted to tell her story to this jury. She wanted them to understand how she felt when this was happening. And that's why we did push for that voluntary manslaughter and the reckless endangerment, because she was under such emotional distress when this happened that she was not thinking clearly.
When you go to sentencing, will you push the fact that she has no criminal record and try and see if you can get, I think it carries 15 to 25 years, will you try and push for the lower end of that due to no criminal record in the past?
Absolutely. So second-degree murder in Tennessee has, for someone with no prior criminal history, has 2 potential ranges of punishment. There's a mitigated range that carries 13.5 years, and then there is a standard range 1 offender for someone with no prior felonies. That carries 15 to 25 years. We will absolutely be arguing that a woman who is 46 years old and has absolutely no criminal history and has done so much to try to better those around her. While she was incarcerated, she wrote a book for incarcerated mothers. She wrote a book for the children of incarcerated mothers. She has lived her life trying to help people. What happened on April the 4th of 2019 was not the actions that ever would have happened with Latoshia Daniels if she was not in that state of distress.
And how is she feeling? I know you guys have probably been able to talk to her. How is she feeling right now?
I mean, go ahead.
I think she's a little bit in shock. I think she's struggling with the idea that she's going to probably have to spend at least another decade in prison. But I think she also understands that, this happened for a reason, and the way she handled her previous incarceration, I think she's going to be fine.
Could that prior prison time count towards?
Oh, absolutely. Whatever jail time she had, jail credit she had built up, that'll count toward the ultimate sentence she'll receive in Division 2.
I know you weren't the original attorney on this, but since you've worked with it, what has it been like as you've worked through it, what you've discovered? Has it been like peeling back an onion, or when you got it, was it really already mostly there? The evidence and the proof.
So like I said, this has been a very unique type of case that we talked to the jury about that day one, in that there's actually a disparity of information in our favor in this case, which is very, very unusual. So a lot of the discovery was not disputed information. Where the dispute came was from the mental state, and that could only come from Latasha.
I think the other big point that needs to be emphasized here is, a lot of times in our society we only view abuse as physical. And in this case, this really highlighted the mental abuse that she went through with this person that took advantage of her. I mean, he was supposed to be her therapist, and he knew her deepest, darkest secrets, and he used that against her, especially with her being a person that had prior mental health issues.
Attorney Horn, I arrived late and I apologize if this has been asked. Has she spoken to the pastor's wife since the shooting? And if so, what was that conversation like?
I don't think she's ever.
She wouldn't have been legally allowed to. There would have been bond conditions and other court order prohibitions against contact.
Has she expressed any interest in reaching out to her and apologizing or having a conversation with her?
I think that's something that probably will be addressed at sentencing. Mm-hmm. And just knowing Latasha, getting to know her and the person that she is, I'm almost 99% sure that she will write a letter or make statements to Tabitha about her actions and apologizing for her actions. Because even in their banter back and forth, she was, she didn't want to shoot her. She never meant to shoot her, and she was shocked. I think Tabitha was shocked when she was shot.
And Latasha has been genuinely remorseful in all of our communications with her, not just as to Tabitha, but even as to Brodus. This is a weight that she carries every day.
Is she getting mental health therapy in jail, and do you think that therapy is adequate?
She's been out of custody. She has been getting mental health help, and I know that I'm confident that she will continue to get mental health help, and I hope that they offer adequate services, but we won't know until time shows.
How much time did she spend in jail before the trial?
About 4 years. So she's got a little time under her belt.
And will that count toward the sentence?
Yes.
Time served, you think?
No.
No?
It will count as jail credit, but that will not cover the range of exposure.
But no amount of good behavior in jail changes what happened on April 4th, 2019. Brodus Perry is gone, 36 years old, third-generation pastor. His family lost a son, a brother, a husband. His congregation lost a pastor. Tabitha Perry survived. She found out her husband had been having an affair while he was being shot in front of her. She was shot herself. She watched him die. Her husband's death and his betrayal happened in the same moment. Latoshia Daniels is 46 years old now. At minimum, another decade in prison, possibly 2. Her freedom gone, her career gone, whatever future she might have built. The jury's verdict reflected the complexity. Latasha had been manipulated by a pastor who exploited his position. The relationship was toxic from the beginning, but she also drove to Memphis with a gun and took someone's life. Sentencing will determine how long she stays behind bars. The judge will weigh everything: the manipulation, the crime, her lack of prior record, the lives destroyed. Brodus Perry counseled couples about faithfulness while carrying on a 3-year affair. He preached integrity while living a double life. When a vulnerable woman came to him for help, he crossed every line. A man is dead, a woman is traumatized, another woman is in prison, families destroyed, a church community shattered, children without a father, other children with their mother behind bars. Tabitha Perry lost her husband and discovered his affair while watching him die in front of her. Brodus Perry's family has to reconcile the pastor they knew with the man who carried on a 3-year affair while counseling his congregation. Latoshia Daniels faces 15 to 25 years for second-degree murder, 2 to 4 years for reckless endangerment. If she serves the maximum on both, she'll be in her late 60s when released. Sentencing is December 2025. Subscribe and turn on notifications for an update on what the judge decides. I'll see you in the next episode of Crime of Passion. Thank you for watching.